Who are you?
I'm no one.
I was raised to do one thing. But I've got nothing to fight for.
Nothing will stand in our way. I will finish what you started.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it. The dark side. A Jedi. They're real.
The Force. It's calling to you. Just let it in.
Splash, bub. Da 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 da. Bub bub da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Boo 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 boo. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Hello, welcome to Movie Uppers. My name is Bob Sham.
I am Angela.
The sounds here may be dogs, and we are in our last week. Finally, our month. This month called Forced, which we're watching every Star Wars movie, including the made-for-TV stuff, in chronological order. And I'll be honest with you, I'll be glad when we're done.
There have been some moments of true joy for me during this process, but now we're at the end and I'm tired. I just feel tired. It's not that they're bad movies, but they're not great at the end.
What I've titled the month seems really important near the last end. Yes. Really seems appropriate, I mean.
We are dedicated.
But we are here in the, what they call the sequel trilogy, the ones that are supposed to occur almost the entire length of time since Return of the Jedi, I think. Mm-hmm. What is it, like 20 to 30 years or something like that?
I think 30.
And it's interesting to compare, when the Phantom Menace came out, how the hype around that. And there was a hype around The Force Awakens, which is the movie we're discussing now from 2015, directed by J.J. Abrams, written by Lawrence Kasdan. Lawrence Kasdan co-wrote at least 3 other Star Wars movies, and J.J. Abrams and Michael Arndt, and these are the Kathleen Kennedy-produced movies starring Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Adam Driver, Oscar Isaac, and several other original cast members as well. That when George Lucas, it was announced that he sold his property, it seemed like there was an excitement to that. because people were like, oh my God, because of what came out of the prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
Everyone thought that George was maybe a little too weird. People were in their feelings about it. But he sold it to fucking Disney.
Yeah.
Who, granted, has the capital to put up the weight behind this giant franchise.
Absolutely.
But that's kind of a bad sign in terms of what's going to be how it's going to be streamlined, how it's going to be. I don't think
even more family friendly.
You know, when George Lucas, we talked about in Phantom Menace the making of. Well, he has a making of for all those prequel trilogies,
sure.
and I watched a little bit of the Revenge of the Sith one, and he comes in with a script there, and I remember this distinctly. And he has a script. He's like,
a first draft, official first draft. Of course, there's a lot of cheating in there. A lot of they fight.
He's holding that script and he's calling it, and we know what Revenge of the Sith is. It's a freaking balls to the wall freaking fight scene about what creates Darth Vader. He called it cheating because I think he knew that ultimately he just wants to give what he thinks the fan base wants. And that was really interesting to me because he called it...
Of course, there's a lot of cheating in there.
Mixed results with the prequels, right? But to give George Lucas some credit, at least there was a little bit more unpredictability with him.
Yeah.
And now when I think we're going through the sequel trilogy here, there's a lot of points in which I just feel like this series just doesn't feel very brave in certain
Not
points.
at all. No.
It feels like it is cheating in the sense that it's just constantly reiterating just even like the way they stumble upon the Millennium Falcon.
The garbage will do.
It just so happens to be junked on this other desert planet that isn't Tatooine. Like, it just... When we went to the theater and saw this...
And we saw it on opening weekend, at least.
I think there was a level of copium and hopium.
Yeah.
Just like when we went to go see The Phantom Menace, where
Absolutely.
we really wanted to see something fun. There was new characters, which I do like that there was a lot of new characters.
I like the new characters as well. Main character's going to be a girl who's supposed to be a badass.
Yeah, no problem there. But, you don't have to beat us over the head over that she's like so strong and independent.
We will talk about it in a minute.
But yeah, nothing wrong with that. Yeah, there's just so much like, in this movie, right? Yeah. And at the time we soaked this movie in, it felt like, this definitely was trying to hit the nostalgia bait, and I think we accepted it at the time.
Yeah, we
right?
did. Yeah.
And now we go back and we reanalyze this movie again, and it almost feels at certain points, and look, I swear I'm going to compliment this movie in some ways. I do think it's probably a little better than The Phantom Menace. I do think that.
Yeah.
But it is so pandering that in certain parts that it borders on insulting.
Yes.
And there's a point where, and then you got these, like, the people bitching about the wokeness crowd who are, like, obviously are all over these movies, right? And you see what they're touching base on. But it's not a matter of, it doesn't matter to me what people are in any role. Just make sure it makes sense and it's written well, and it's a lot more than just a throwaway fucking line to determine the characterization of these people.
Oh, absolutely.
The people who bitch about wokeness, they're not going to understand what good writing is, all right? So that's not the conversation we're going to be having. We're not having that dusty conversation.
No.
We're having an anti-pandering, don't fucking insult my intelligence conversation. I want to see strong women and strong representation in movies. I have no problem with that.
Absolutely.
But I'm not going to give you credit for shitty, flat characters.
Right.
Period.
Absolutely.
Regardless of the gender or race or sexuality.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. We were talking about this. I don't know if you're ready to get into characters.
Go ahead. We'll just roll on in.
So, Rey is an independent young woman, but she ostensibly has been, when she was very small, we'll say 4 or 5 years old, dumped on this garbage island.
Yeah, planet of Jakku.
apparently traded to this traitor.
Somehow it's worse than Tatooine. This
place.
She
She lives in like an abandoned old ship, and she goes into these like old spaceships and, you know, rips them apart, finding pieces that she can go and trade for food. She's a scavenger, but she's never left this planet. And she is hoping against hope that her parents are one day going to come back for her, right? But we don't know who her family is. They abandoned her, or someone stole her and put her there. I can't remember. Bob said they're going to tell us something in one of these movies. I can't remember.
She forgot. She forgot.
I do not remember
a lineage here.
where she comes from. So yeah, that'll be funny when we get to it. But unless she's like the Emperor's kid or something.
But she doesn't know either.
No, she doesn't know. So like, I'm on this journey with her.
The plot thing, I don't even know if that idea existed when they made this movie. It was by the third one that they just throw it out.
Well, everyone was like, where the fuck did she come from? Like, they had to give something, but I don't remember the answer.
I kind of like the idea that she wouldn't be connected to anything, but they can't help themselves.
I mean, how could,
Anyway, go ahead.
This whole instance, like, happens upon her. Everything's chance, right? It's all the Force. There's no karma. That's all the Force.
Definitely any weird question as to why is always Force in all of these movies. Right?
Yeah, and so, you know, she's had a pretty joyless life. Before anything happens in her life, and we're just getting to know her, she is cleaning these parts that she found, and she's like young, right? She's probably 20. She looks across at this woman who is like 90 years old, also cleaning these little parts. And you see, this is like maybe the best acting in the whole movie that she did. You see this look over her face like, oh God, that's going to be
Daisy Ridley's not bad.
She's not bad. They just don't give her much to do. But then you have Finn.
Let's talk about their background, right?
Yeah.
But the background in contrast to how they're presented to us.
This is where I want to get to, yeah.
So you got Rey, who's a scavenger on Jakku, yes.
Abandoned.
Who has, as an orphan, abandoned at a young age. Parents left, whoever was taking care of her left, and she's been abandoned. And she should be incredibly hardened, and she is, right? There's certain things she can do, like she's good at fighting.
Yeah.
She would have to be to survive this long in that environment.
She knows about ships because she takes shit apart all the time.
Then you got this guy played by John Boyega, who's FN-2187. He is a stormtrooper who was kind of a similar scenario, plucked from a family very young. So young, he doesn't know his name, just his stormtrooper number.
They say at one point that the stormtroopers were taken from their families as infants and raised up the entire time, brainwashed.
Fully indoctrinated into the empirical system, this new order that has managed to rise. In our opening credit scroll, the reason the new order has risen is because Luke Skywalker ran the fuck away. That sounds familiar, right? Yeah. He just took off because his Padawan turned to the dark side. Well, you know who else sucked at being a Jedi Master, Luke? Everyone else, okay? Everyone. So, based on the scroll...
Except Obi-Wan.
No, he failed.
He did
he fucking
too.
failed.
You're right, he did too.
Based on the scroll, Luke Skywalker alone running away... the New Order was able to establish its power based upon the opening scroll.
And so they're obsessed with finding him.
John Boyega's character, the stormtrooper, they land and they're just lighting up this town, and he does not shoot. It's like it's said it's his first battle.
Yeah, we find out later it's the first time.
So it implies he's very young, probably like a teenager, I guess. But
you know what? If this was real, they would put them out there at like 14.
He looks like a baby face.
He does have a baby face.
He and Daisy Ridley are totally baby face.
But you know they've got to be at least 20.
He ends up going to defecting and running away and rescuing Poe Dameron, played by Oscar Isaac, who does look cool, but we don't really get a lot of him to really determine.
Yeah.
He's a rogue squadron, the most daring in the galaxy.
He's like the closest you get to a Han Solo in the original trilogy, in that he's kind of like handsome.
Poe Dameron calls him Finn. Now, I know Star Wars isn't going to like really get into the depths of the PTSD of these characters.
But there's got to be something.
But there's an implication here of like an extremely brutal life that these people live up to.
Yes.
And I don't think it's represented only through casual lines. It just doesn't feel very represented.
Yeah.
The hardship here. Like it doesn't feel like the implications of what you understand of their background doesn't feel represented all that well when we're seeing them.
Yeah.
And when Poe Dameron, there's this part, and this is some J.J. Abrams shit. J.J. Abrams is like if Steven Spielberg and Joss Whedon had a baby, it would be J.J.
Sure.
Abrams, right? And there's this like quirk conversation that happens in modern shit that I really fucking am so burnt out on.
Yeah.
Where Poe Dameron talks to him and Kylo Ren gets up in his face. And Poe Dameron is like,
So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first?
The old man gave it to you.
It's just very hard to understand you with all the
Search him.
apparatus.
throughout the Star Wars movies, the only one who really does that is Han. And Harrison Ford is ad-libbing, I'm fairly certain, a lot of the little isms he's saying. And now it's just like these little characters are throwing out this little quirk lord lines here and there. It's not, I wouldn't call it oversaturated, but it definitely signifies that this is like modern, supposed to be funny sensibility.
Sure.
I mean, these people should not even be able to look at a Star Cruiser without curling up into a fetal position here, right?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing they give Finn is every so often he'll say things like, we can't go back there.
Yeah.
They're going to kill us.
Well, you do understand that he's afraid.
There is that. He does seem afraid, but you're right. Like, he's so ready to love Rey. And I get that he's never had a connection with someone before because he's been raised in this, like, sterile environment. That should make him cold and weird. He's like the crybabyest one in this movie.
Yeah.
And there is this part where, you know, they do end up meeting and the classic, they're running and he's grabbing her hand and she's like, I can run without you holding my hand. Now, when she said that line in the theater, I went,
she literally
I was like, this
clapped.
is great.
Did you literally
This is
clap?
a feminist movie. I think I did. This is a feminist movie. But then, even within that same scene, that is said in like 4 other different ways. It's like, stop telling me. Just fucking be strong.
Yes.
Stop saying it. Just do it.
There's a point where Finn, he's on Jakku because they're trying to find... Poe Dameron's droid has the location to where Luke Skywalker is.
BB-8, one of the best characters in the movie.
He's a little ball droid. And Finn sees Daisy Ridley get jumped by multiple people. He starts to run in to save her. And she kicks all their ass by themselves. And
yeah.
I actually like that part.
I did too.
Because she should be good at fighting to have survived in this environment for that long.
100%.
I still think she knows a little bit too much about ships and shit. But that's really all you needed of that to tell you, because it makes sense why she would be tough. This character, if she's spent all her life on that planet, never has to explain to anyone there that she's a badass.
No, I mean, you see
but
her...
Finn doesn't know her, granted, but Finn doesn't know shit from shit.
Right.
Finn doesn't know anything about anything.
Has Finn even ever seen girls?
This is what I'm saying. Like, well, he wouldn't even know. He'd just stand there with a hard-on for all we know. You know, when we first saw this movie, and I have the hindsight of seeing the whole trilogy, of course.
Right.
I was actually very fascinated with Finn and very invested in his character development because of the implications of his background. And that seemed very fascinating to me, that he would be completely come up in this system and then he rejects it.
Yeah.
Like, I was really hoping maybe some extra content talking about his past. Like, it seems like it'd be a very sad story, but these characters are not wearing any brutality on their face. And knowing what I know now in hindsight, there's really not much more to Finn than we get.
You do actually see him in this, like he's going to leave and then he stays to save her. He wants to do the right thing, but he's also scared, but he's also trying to be in love with Rey, but also, like, you've never even had a friend before.
I guess he is the whinier one. And,
he is.
And Rey, the Jedi character, yet another chosen one here, is very Force sensitive, as we learn. She's almost a little too perfect in a lot of ways. The only thing that she seems to struggle with is shooting a blaster, which I would think she would be good at that as well.
Well, she's never probably had a blaster. It's probably
you
crazy
figure she would have
expensive.
scavenged one or some shit.
She might have, but she probably would have traded it for food.
So, we're not hating on the actors. We're not even really hating on the characters, just kind of how they're handled.
Yeah.
And we had like a lot of hope to their development, and some of it I can't really remember. But Finn, I really wanted bigger things for him, and I do not recall bigger things for him.
Same.
But a character that does kind of bring it, and an aspect of this movie that I think is good, and we'll reanalyze it when we get to the end of
I'm excited
Rise
to
of
watch
Skywalker.
this journey
I think
again.
I think Kylo Ren is actually kind of great.
He really is.
And he's played by Adam Driver,
Yeah.
and we learn very quickly he's like connected to the family. He's Han Solo and Leia's kid.
Yeah.
I forgot
how quickly they just say that
They
stuff.
really do.
Yeah.
They don't really hold the mystery there. And there's even a point where Rey gets captured.
You still want to kill me?
That happens when you're being hunted by a creature in a mask.
You're hiding behind a mask, and he just takes his mask off, and you see Adam Driver. And that's the first time we see it. We also see him, like, obsessed with his grandfather. He's got the melted Vader helmet. But there's a point, like, they're constantly trying to find the droid with the BB-8 droid with the map to Skywalker. And they've got this supreme leader called Snoke, who's almost like this Wizard of Oz hologram projection.
I can't remember, is he actually normal size? They're just projecting him so big in that room because he's a hologram.
I'd assume, I think he's normal size.
It's just him
There's
trying to
a lot
be...
of weird things to that we'll get into.
Yeah.
And we got Commander Hux, who's almost like a younger Grand Moff Tarkin type role.
He is. He's like whiny in the I know what I'm doing better than you kind of way.
I won't have you question my methods.
They're obviously skilled at committing high treason. Perhaps Leader Snoke should consider using a clone army.
My men are exceptionally trained, programmed from birth.
Then they should have no problem retrieving the droid, unharmed.
Careful, Ren, that your personal interests not interfere with orders from Leader Snoke.
I want that map. For your sake, I suggest you get it.
That weird bureaucratic empirical detail, those are actually great characters.
Absolutely.
Like, that's the best part of the movie, that little infighting shit. And there's a point where Kylo Ren is, the people come and tell him, like, oh, we missed the droid merely again.
The droid stole a freighter.
Not exactly, sir. It had help.
And he takes his lightsaber and he just trashes the room and just shreds, like, all this equipment around him. Has, like, this little temper tantrum. And that little moment presents a lot of, like, detail into that character that isn't told to you, it's shown to you.
Yeah, you don't need it to be told.
And he comes off more layered, even though we know more about Finn and Daisy's background. It's almost like he's reacting to the type of background they had. Like how he would be is like how they should be just as angry.
It literally was he's the son of the rebellion.
Yeah.
Like, the princess is his mother. She's now the general. You know, Han Solo is his dad. He was probably given everything. He was training with Luke Skywalker. Also, did Luke never tell him that at the end his daddy chose the Force and was like, good?
I don't know. I can't believe he fucking runs away. Of course he does, like Yoda. But yes, Adam Driver, he does a good job playing Kylo Ren. Rey and Finn happen to meet up because the Millennium Falcon just happens to be on Jakku. Then they go fly it. They know how to fly the Millennium Falcon.
And they're trying to save BB-8. And Finn tells her he thinks Poe's dead.
Yeah.
So they got to take BB-8.
But then they get captured on a cargo freight, and it happens to be manned by
none other.
Harrison Ford and Chewbacca, Han Solo and Chewbacca.
Now, he's been looking for the Millennium Falcon since it was stolen from him years ago.
Yeah, at some point, but he's got it back. So all that nostalgia bait. I recall people applauding when they walked in. Yeah, we get all that, and then they go meet with it's like the New Republic, but also called the Resistance.
Yeah.
So there are a whole structured system. It's like they do kind of have an equivalent power, but then we meet with the Resistance, and it's led by Princess Leia, or General Leia, I suppose she's called.
A general now.
And then we got the Han Leia face-to-face.
No matter how much we fought, I've always hated watching you leave.
That's why I did it. So you'd miss me.
The worst parts of this movie is that shit. Like, the chemistry there was so low that I almost felt bad for how much I criticized Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, these are people that, like, actually had chemistry. Their love story was very convincing. And now they're just two older actors catching that check. And I get it. No hate on it. But there was just nothing there. And that level of pandering was just, I would be fine with, like, not trying to dig up the past and just having all new. I would love it if Star Wars went, like, 200 years into the fucking future.
Absolutely. Honestly. Or, listen, if you are going to have the Luke thing, just something else should have happened to everyone else. And it's all exposition.
It reminds me of like old comics where everything is just explained over and over again.
It was sweet, though. The only sweet part in that whole scene, when Leia hugged Chewie. That felt real.
Yeah.
There's something about Chewbacca.
I feel like it's just that suit, right? So it's a little safer. It feels a little safer.
Yeah, but she even
not
like
as
tucked
exhausted.
into him. I mean, that's got to be like sense memory, like send you back 40 years.
Yeah, apparently Peter Mayhew was in the suit for a lot of parts of this movie.
Yeah.
The Supreme Leader Snoke seems to know that something has happened. There's an awakening in the Force. The Force is awakening.
They don't mention the Emperor.
Kylo Ren, he kind of seems like someone with an untreated mental illness.
Yes.
He's pulled into the dark side, but he admits his character that the light side beckons to him. He's like the reverse, right? He wants to go dark, but the light side's pulling him. Mm-hmm. It does kind of, if you kind of think of him like a character with an untreated mental illness, untreated schizophrenia, bipolar, something like that, it does give a solid layer to this character that is very interesting, and Adam Driver does seem to represent this duality, probably in a way that's better than most of the series, to be quite honest.
100.
It really, as much as we have kind of are pecking at this, like the Kylo Ren character is really good.
He is really good. There are just these little moments, like they're having a battle at the end, like a lightsaber battle, and he's gotten injured, and again, it's not overly dramatic, but he'll stand up and just like punch his side. Mm-hmm. And it's a very, I don't know if I love that but I love it because he's not crying. He's not favoring it even. He's just being like, I have to keep going.
It's just a nice detail
it's
of like,
so good.
And it's like, and it represents like his like impatience, his anger.
Yes.
Just to be like, ugh.
He thinks about every single
It really
movement.
does seem like he's putting a little bit of extra layer of thought and motion into it.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone else, everyone's super excited to be in a Star Wars movie, but they're just kind of playing what's handed to them, and you can't blame them. You can't, just like in the prequels, you can't really be mad at the actors.
No.
It's got to be, they're handed what they're written.
Yeah.
And this movie isn't terrible. This movie is not. It does have like cool shit. All of these movies look amazing. Look,
it's
they
gorgeous.
know how to. There's a lot of like this. I don't know if they put this out in 3D, but J.J. Abrams is throwing a lot of things at your face throughout this movie. And we also, you remember the Death Star, right? Well. What if the Death Star, the Death Star was big and it would orbit planets, but what if a whole planet was like a Death Star?
That it was like actually a planet?
It was a planet.
They like hollowed it out?
They weaponized a whole planet that pulls from the sun, pulls from a nearby star, the energy.
It sucks up a whole star.
And they can shoot like a solar blast. They literally destroy an entire solar system. In this fucking movie, the capital of the New Republic, I forget the name of the planet.
Well, it's not a solar system, it's a planet and all of its moons. But they do it from like across the way. Like you see coming across the sky like it's the fucking Wicked Witch of the West, like this. And everyone's just staring like, oh my God. Like they just knew that that's what was happening. And they just saw the explosions.
Yeah, and it's brutal. Like this is like billions, if not trillions of lives here.
Yes.
Like the amount of the death toll that you don't see firsthand. You see it like from distance in space. But the implications, it's like more people die in these Star Wars movies than, if you really think about it, than almost any movie you will ever see, right? So they destroy the capital of the New Republic. So that does completely... They go from maybe an equivalent power to like, oh fuck, now we're scrambling. Now the New Order is probably the bigger power.
Yeah, now they're back to their rebel days.
And so they got to go onto this planet, and everybody's got to go make some runs. And Finn has to find his courage and admit he's a part of the rebellion. Poe Dameron
comes back to save Rey.
And he lets him keep his jacket. They don't have much to work with, but you do get nice little feelings between those characters. When they met
each other, again, that was genuinely sweet.
That does seem
when the two men
sweet,
saw each other.
You really gotta stretch the imagination to travel around on the Death Star as big as it is, on the Star Killer base, the whole planet Death Star. It's like, we need to go to the power core. It's like saying, like, it's like going, like, we're in Nashville, right? It's like being like, we need to go to the power core. Let's get on this elevator. It'd be like taking an elevator to, like, Mexico City or something. Like, this is the planet.
It's gonna be a small planet.
I
don't know.
Well,
it's ridiculous.
But yeah, Han goes face to face with his son, Ben. And Ben seems like he wants to give in. And maybe a part of you, maybe it's not a lie when he says what he says.
I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. Will you help me?
But then he takes his lightsaber and just stabs Han Solo, and Han Solo gets, his body drops into the reactor. And Chewbacca cried harder when Han Solo was dipped in carbonite than he cried when he was actually murdered by his own son.
That's true, but then he did start killing everyone.
Chewbacca didn't. And he shoots Kylo Ren in the hip, and that's why he's got that injury.
The thing about that scene that hit me so hard is that you're right. Like, I believed him either way. When he says the line to Harrison Ford about, like, I'm torn and I don't know what to do, can you help me? And he's like, I'll do anything for you. And the thing is that to go complete dark side, he has to kill his father. You have to always kill your father.
As many criticisms as I may have for the sequel trilogy, Adam Driver might be the best performance in the whole series. So yeah, he kills Han Solo, and it was cool. And
yeah, and then
we don't have any more flat scenes after that.
Yeah, and then somehow. Well, then he has the fight with...
Oh, we get some Rogue Squadron star fighting when they're having to blow up certain parts or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
We got a lady. We got a fat guy. We got the new Porkins, right? I mean, he's kind of chubby. He's the guy from Heroes. And then you got, like, an Asian guy. And then you got this guy from this person. And then you got an alien.
Yeah.
Only one of them dies. Which one out of all? The alien dies.
Bullshit.
That means...
They could have killed the fat guy, though.
That means, yeah, they should have killed the fat white guy.
I think he comes back, though.
Yeah, traditionally, the fat guy dies first. Porkins died first, right?
Yeah.
I've got a problem here. Eject! I can hold it. No, I'm all right.
So really, the people who decided that are as racist as the Empire, because the Empire was very anti-alien.
Right.
So now the people behind the new Star Wars movie completely racist against non-human sentient beings. That is brutal. Wow, guys.
Wow.
You kill off the one star pilot you kill off as the alien one. Wow, you hate non-human sentient beings. Disgusting.
We got about 2 seconds.
Admiral Akbar's still around, though, commanding. That's fun.
Oh, yeah, I love that. There was about 2 seconds of Princess Leia being motherly to Rey when they got back, because obviously, like, they didn't have to speak any words, but she knew Han was dead because she, like, felt him die. And when she, like, felt that was a good moment for her, too. Like, Princess Leia did have a few moments. Like, Carrie Fisher had a few, like, tiny moments.
Sure.
I mean,
I never really got out of that, like, we're just shoving it nostalgia bait feeling.
I mean, 100%.
Past her, to be honest. Or Han, for that matter. But we do get a battle, and Finn is there because he seems to be in love with Rey. And he get it, maybe. Probably the first woman he ever saw that wasn't getting, like, executed. And at one point, she's knocked out, and Kylo Ren is there.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I jumped forward.
Injured, and he picks up the lightsaber. And I kind of did like that touch of how he would attack, like, someone who's not Force, like, you just kind of run at someone, but I really feel like Kylo Ren should have, like, really fucked him up, like, cut off his arm and legs, like, which is something that happens all the time in Star Wars movies. Fuck Finn up. You don't have to kill him, but fuck him up.
I think once he was knocked out, it didn't matter. He only mattered to Rey. Like, he wanted Rey to come on to his side. Like, he knew. Because we haven't even said this, but he can read people's minds. And she's, like, the first person who's been able to fight against him. And she just, like, started doing Force shit without anyone telling her to
meditates.
do it.
No one ever told her how to meditate. She just starts to meditate.
Didn't even know that the Jedi were real. Because where she grew up, it was, like, a legend. She thought it was not true. Like, it was, like, superhero fantasy Greek god sort of stories.
She's the new chosen one. It kind of feels like a class, more of the original trilogy style fight, where it's just thrashing and smashing.
Well, and then the ground splits them apart.
Yeah, and then like everyone's fucked up, and people have to be rescued, and everyone survives, even though the planet is, everyone gets picked up in time.
Finn's unconscious.
Supreme Leader, the fuel cells have ruptured. The collapse of the planet has begun.
Leave the base at once and come to me with Kylo Ren. It is time to complete his training.
Everyone has to retreat from. The planet basically turns into a star. It blows up, the Star Killer base. But all the bureaucratic mutants and survive, and all the other characters survive. We only got one dead alien in the Rogue Squadron, and Rey is now Chewbacca's homie, and they go with BB-8, and because R2-D2 has the map, but he's been defunct.
He's been asleep. He's actually, R2-D2 has been waiting. He put himself in low power mode when Luke left, and he's just been sitting in low power mode, like on the ship.
But he has the information, and then he wakes up when it matters, and then gets the info. And apparently he went to go to the first Jedi temple. Whoop-de-fucking-do. So she goes into a planet full of these islands, and then Luke Skywalker comes out.
Yeah.
The fucking coward. And that is Star Wars The Force Awakens from 2015, directed by Juicy J. Abrams and Mr. Lens Flair himself. I was a lot more optimistic about this movie after we saw it in the theater because my heart was more open to see where the development would go.
Yeah.
And I think there's some ups and downs, but I think there's some things that don't really pay off that great. Yeah. But in and of itself, Star Wars The Force Awakens, if we gave this 1 through 5 each, what would you give it?
I think I'm going to say 3.5, and I'm giving it that little extra boost truly because of Adam Driver.
I think I'm a 3.25, so that's a 6.75 for The Force Awakens. That is a good score. That is a B, but, some people might be like, I think Rotten Tomatoes is like a 90 for the audience score on this. I'm like, all right, y'all. But come on, y'all. All right, folks, take a look at it. At a 6.75. It's a solid B movie, and I agree with that. It sits between Hotel Transylvania and The Birds. Our Bird score might be a little controversial. I think a lot of people would go over an 8 on that, but we fell on a 6.75, and that is a 0.25 lower than Revenge of the Sith, but a 0.25 above Solo. And 0.5 above Attack of the Clones. It is better than Attack of the Clones.
It's definitely better
than
Attack
than
of
Solo.
The Clones. Yeah, it's definitely better than Solo.
So, yeah, The Force Awakens, a respectable 6.75 score. So, we're off to a decent start. There's some problems, but there are some what we liked about it, we really liked about it. Yeah. So now we're going to go into what's even more controversial, the next two movies. So on Wednesday, come back and we will be talking about what's it called? The Last Jedi, written and directed by Rian Johnson. Interesting. All right, so let's check the show notes links, other places to find us. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. We appreciate it when you do that. And
Jar Jar is the key to all of this.
Still, yes.